Premier League is back this weekend. We leave Ireland behind us. Isn't it great that we're not so like? Remember, like after the last international window, we're like, can we just forget about Ireland for a little while? Let's talk about Manchester United or whatever. It's not as negative this time. But speaking of Manchester United, I was looking at the table there a minute ago, Kevin, and they're 2 points off the lead and in fourth place. And I was laughing because it feels like they're in such a crisis. I know all the top teams have played each other and United haven't, but at the same time, they're away to Leicester this weekend. But we're going to concentrate on the Ladbrokes 1-2 free games. This from Saturday evening and from Sunday's games. They're this weekend. If you can play right now on Ladbrokes.com or on the app for free. You just pick the scores in the 3 games. If you get one scoreline correctly, you win a €1 free bet. If you get 2, you get a €5 free bet. And if you get all 3, you win €100 cash. Kevin did really well on the internationals last week. I think it might have been the €5, or maybe might have just missed out by a goal here or there. And the Scotland-Israel was 3-2 instead of 2-1. I think that was
I definitely got that one. Goals wrong. Got the results right. But that's regular, isn't it?
There you go.
The issue.
Got to start on Saturday evening, London derby here. This is a really interesting one. Brentford versus Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a draw in it. I just think Chelsea, listen, Premier League teams, they all have players away on international duty, but I think Chelsea's will have more. Everyone coming back in last minute. I just, trying to get everyone back into the squad, back into the club mode, arriving back in, I suppose, maybe today or whatever. And you don't have long to sort it all out. They're lucky, I suppose, they don't have to travel. It's right next door. That side to it. But I'm going to go. Brentford have just been really good, haven't they? And it's been
great.
Funny to see them the way they've gone about it in the Premier League. So I'm going to go for a score draw, 1 apiece. Okay,
so 1-1 in that game. Continue Brentford's arrival into the Premier League in style. The games on Sunday then. The David Unsworth derby. Everton versus West Ham. 2 teams, West Ham maybe aren't firing all cylinders the way they did last year, but Everton also kind of 2 points off the lead. They're going well. They're hammered at Villa, but everything else under Rafa has been really good so far. They've had a few injuries. I wouldn't know how to call this one myself. Actually, it's kind of a bit.
I'm the same as you. I'm going the same score line as the one before. Just listen, it's hard. Very closely matched 2 teams. Managers, I suppose. Benitez probably has the one up on him there, but 2 good managers. But I'm going to go for a score draw, 1 apiece. I just can't. Could go either way. You could see West Ham going there and winning. Everton under Benitez. Look what it said. Apart from that result you mentioned, but yeah, I can't separate. I'm going for 1 apiece.
That's perfect. 2-1 draws then going into, what a coincidence that Sky Sports on Super Sunday's main event is coming from St. James's Park this weekend as the David Ginola derby, as we'll call it, between Newcastle and Tottenham. I don't know what you make of all this Newcastle thing. It's fascinating, if nothing else, I would say, Kevin.
It's mad. Just seeing the owners and I can't think of the lady's name who's part owner as well, and they're in the training. At the training ground and around the training pitch and stuff like that. And then at the same time, Steve Bruce is getting sacked, and it's been openly spoke about that he's getting sacked. So is Steve Bruce there saying hello to him, knowing they're about to sack him? It's like it must be a weird feeling for the players, the staff, everyone. What are the changes going to be? How much are they going to spend? Are they getting rid of me this week? Are they just, if they're bringing all these players, I'm going to be total, I'm a goner. The manager knows he's a goner. So as good as it is, I'm sure the place will be rocking. I'm sure the Spurs or the Newcastle fans will have a great atmosphere there. It's one of the noisiest places I ever played, St. James's Park, when they scored a goal. It was fantastic. So I'm sure that, St. James's Park won't have been as good an atmosphere as a long time as this game, but I'm still going to say Spurs are going to win. So go for I'm going to go for a 2-1 away win to Spurs.
Okay, 2-1 away win for 1-2-3. I'll recap them in a minute, but just going back to the players in Newcastle, right? So, right, you're, I don't know, in the Manchester City days, you're like, I don't know, not quite Richard, you're Sylvain Distin or someone at that club, and that, right, they're coming in, they're going to buy 15 central defenders until they find the right one. They've got all the money in the world, but I still have to play for them for a while. Now, Newcastle are second bottom in the league, and they can't sign anyone till at least January. And it doesn't look like they're going to come in and just say, here's 500 million, spend it however you want. whoever the manager is, Pep Guardiola. It doesn't look like that. So they still have to not get relegated this season. But all these players kind of know, what are we doing here? Are we in the shop window? Are we play? It must be really complicated. Like, in some ways, you go out and just play the game and you are where you are. But in other ways, it's like you do need to buy into a club. You need to buy into a culture and a purpose, I suppose, in some ways, to get the best out of yourselves.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know what way this is going to go. I suppose the players will be thinking, some of the players will probably think, what, if I can play well at all in the next few months, I'll get a fantastic new contract out of this crowd. There's always that side to it. It's like they are getting rid of Steve Bruce. I've heard nothing since about it. Just in the first day, he was basically going who they're going to get in, and who to get in. It might be a fantastic manager, but won't be used to relegation battles probably in the Premier League. And how is that going to go? And if they do get relegated, how do they get back up while being within the financial fair play rules, and the Championship are quite strict now. There's just so many things that are going to happen. So it's suppose, listen, you're saying they mightn't spend a whole lot of money in January. I'd say if they're still in the bottom 2 or 3, there'll be serious amounts of money.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of West Ham all those years ago when the Icelandics took them over, and like they were signing, they brought in Tevez, who else? Tevez and Mascherano. And they still got relegated, didn't they? Did they still get relegated?
No, they beat Man United on the last day of the season, and Sheffield United sued them.
So, and there was uproar over it, wasn't there? So, I'd imagine something like that happening. Few players signing for them that shouldn't really be signing for Newcastle, but doing a job. And if they can stay up this year, the world's their oyster, I'd imagine. But this year won't be easy.
No, absolutely not. Just on Spurs then briefly, Harry Kane was taken off last night while England were needing a goal, and it was the right decision. He is not himself at the moment. There's been a sense all year, it's like, it's Harry Kane. He's never actually had a bad season. He'll kick into gear at some point. He's just a little bit out of sorts. He had a weird summer after the Euros, but ultimately he's with Spurs this season now. It'll all kind of come together. He's been terrible. Like, if I watched obviously the Villa match last week, and it was Son was the best player on the pitch and won that game for them on his own. Harry Kane's anonymous, and he has been in every game, every Spurs game I've seen this season. It's isn't it?
Very worrying for them after turning down all that money.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? Like, I did Euros. I watched the final. They're talking about the reason is because he's not happy with not being let go on transfer. If you saw him play, and you did see him play in Euros, but the final in particular, he was absolutely useless for the whole game. I couldn't believe they left him on. If you've a spare 120 minutes, Mick, go back and just watch him during the final of the Euros. He couldn't run, he couldn't sprint, he couldn't close down. He, to me, was the reason England didn't win the Euros. Watch it. They couldn't get out of their own half because he couldn't hold the ball up. He couldn't put pressure on the Italian centre halves. Two of the oldest centre halves tournament, brilliant as they were. He gave them no hassle whatsoever. He never ran in behind. He didn't hold the ball up. He couldn't close them down. His legs were gone from the first minute of the game. If you watch back that game, but they left him on, I'd imagine, to take a penalty maybe when it was kept going. I couldn't believe he was still on the pitch after 60 minutes, 70 minutes. And like, watching it here, I wasn't doing the game. I was sitting at home watching it. And I was paying a bit more attention to the strikers. And no one mentioned it. No one said anything about him and how he wasn't bringing England up the pitch. They needed him to be the one to get them up the field. And they couldn't get out of their own half after the first 5 minutes when they went 1-0 up. But he, to me, was the reason England were so poor in that final. And his whole Euros before that, he took a while to get off the score sheet in the Euros, and he wasn't the same player for whatever reason. I wouldn't put it down to just this transfer not going through, because before this transfer, he just looks lethargic or lacking energy or whatever, not sharp. And he did all through that Euros, and over that final, he was really, really poor. So big worry for Spurs. We said that, we were sitting there, I'm sure we spoke about Mick, said take the money, take 100 million. What are you doing not taking the money? And as good as Daniel Levy thought he was by keeping him, there's 100 million down the drain plus another how many millions in wages if he doesn't kick back into gear, and he mightn't. He's at an age now, 29, I think.
27, I think, maybe 28.
Well, he's put a lot of work in, whatever. Maybe it's consistent over seasons. Maybe he just needs a break. He didn't probably have much of a break after the Euros and the build-up to the Euros. A lot of stress on him over the last few years, a lot of games, a lot of goals. Don't want to write him off, but something needs to happen. He needs, if you were his manager, tell him, I'd have given him a long summer break. I think he was back quite early. I know he took an extra week, didn't he, of his own accord. But, no, he didn't get much break. They got to the final of the Euros. He hasn't had much break. He's not injured in years. He plays all the time. So maybe it's just physical exhaustion, needs a long holiday. But he's not going to get it now, is he? He's going to see it out to the end of the season. But worrying for Spurs, because he's the reason, he's the difference for them the last years. He's why they did reasonably well, got to a Champions League final, and they're struggling without him.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, being England captains obviously takes a mental toll, I would imagine, as well. But look, it's not looking good for him. We'll see if he turns it around this weekend. Kevin's 1, 2, 3 picks, by the way, is Brentford 1, Chelsea 1, Everton 1, West Ham 1, and Newcastle 1, Spurs 2 on Sunday. So possibly with Harry Kane getting on the score sheet there. So you can play yourself on Ladbrokes.com or on the Ladbrokes app now. Just log on, click on 1, 2, 3, pick the scores in the 3 games. If you get one right, you get a €1 free bet. If you get 2, you get a €5 free bet. And if you get all 3, you win €100 cash. Kevin, thanks a million. We're signing off with positivity this week. We'll be back fully talking about the club game next week.
Yeah, very happy to talk about some positive Ireland play. It's been brilliant.
Absolutely. And clean sheets, which you were most interested in.
Yeah, boring from the centre forward, isn't it? Clean sheets.
Yeah, 7-0 on aggregate over 2 games is boring. Thanks a million, Kev. We'll chat to you next week, of course. We'll chat to you next week as well. If you're having a bet on the football or anything else this weekend, please always gamble responsibly and visit thelouis.net for more information. We'll be back with you with more build-up really soon. We'll have Stephen Ferris actually this week, looking ahead to this weekend's URC as well. So keep an eye on our channels for that. Talk to you soon.